Coachella Valley, and welcome to Seeds of Hope. I'm your host, Katie Stice, CEO at the amazing Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce, and we bring you this video series live just to introduce you to amazing local professionals and experts in their field, our friends, our neighbors, our business community. And today, I'm really excited about our guest. You are going to want to watch this because gosh, there's no one better that I know of in the financial industry than Simon. He has such a great history, rich history, experience, professionalism. He's been out there on the news. Let's bring out our guest today. You probably know him because you've seen him out in the community at chamber events or supporting, but please welcome Simon Hobbs, LPL Financial Advisor with California Financial Partners. Simon, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to have me. It's very kind. Thank you.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you, and especially someone of your caliber, Simon, because you've been in this field for such a long time and you've really been an expert in the field on news channels and such. So for people maybe who haven't met you before, do you want to share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a financial advisor here in Coachella Valley. I was for a long time, I was a main anchor for CNBC television, first in Europe and then on Wall Street. I spent 7 years on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I anchored the 10 a.m. show, the most popular show on CNBC, which is the dominant financial network. And I was the guy on the TV screens at the top of the trading floor, which was a lot, but maybe we can talk about that. And I ended up doing the business. I left after 18 years and I was looking for happiness. I came to the West Coast and I was actually splashing around in a pool in the Hollywood Hills like a child. And somebody said, "Oh my God, you're Simon Hobbs." I was like, "Yes." He said, "We grew up watching you." I was like, "Oh, okay." He said, "Why don't you join us at California Financial Partners?" And I was like, "I've seen how the sausage is made. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to do it for ordinary people. I know how it's done and I don't want to do it." And he was like, "No, we're really different." He said, "Believe me." He said, come and see us. We're independent financial advisors, so you don't work for a bank. So, separately, nobody's telling us where to invest people's funds, and the fees are transparent. And
sure.
After the knowledge that I had on Wall Street, I thought, well, why don't I come out and help just ordinary folk, middle class people, who we could debate whether they normally get a great deal. I hold quite strong views on that, which I won't express here. But to actually teach them what's happening. If you've got life savings, why not have somebody who really knows what's going on and can take you as the co-pilot through the decisions that you're making and explain constantly why we're doing this and why the markets are down so heavily today. Again, maybe.
Well, and speaking of the market and the economy and your experience, because I know you keep up on absolutely everything that's happening.
My job. Yeah.
It is an interesting time. It is the number one question that we're getting. So share with us what's happening in the economy today.
So we close on the stock market closes at 1 o'clock our time here on Pacific time. So the S&P lost 2.7% today, and the Nasdaq fell by another 4%. That's a huge move on a single day, and obviously it's been a rough 2 weeks. All investors know that. I'm taking the calls for people that are a little bit panicked. I would just say a few things, if I may. First of all, we're coming off record highs. Last month, we had record highs on the stock market. And remember, in the context of the losses we have, that we made in broad terms, it was 23 or 24% on 2 consecutive years on that S&P 500. And if you were in the Magnificent Seven, those big tech stocks, you've made an awful lot of money. So let's get a context as to where people sit as this happens at the moment. To explain what's going on now, Katie, I just need to give you a little bit of background, if I may. The first is that for 3 years, I was the guy in Coachella Valley who was telling people there will not be a recession. And they will not cut interest rates by much. Your mortgage is not going down by much. And I was right for each of those 3 years. Obviously, the situation is now slightly changing. And I think you have to split what is happening with the Trump administration into 2 parts. Let me say, first of all, that the stock market is a function. It is based on corporate earnings. If you buy a share in Apple, you are buying that little slither of Apple's earnings for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And over time, the corporate earnings rise in this country. American companies have an incredible ability to be more and more profitable, whatever your political view is on that. And therefore, it's natural for the stock market to rise over time. It just because it goes up doesn't mean to say it's overvalued or a bubble. History teaches us that the stock market rises over time. So let me come back to the two things that are going on with the Trump administration. The first is what Elon Musk is doing. And if you see those headlines, and people hold strong views on it, whatever your views are, if you see those headlines, ask yourself immediately, is that going to affect the earnings of Apple or Costco or Trader Joe's? And the answer to most of what he's doing in broad terms is no. So Elon Musk in the Doge is not really, okay, if they'd sacked 1 million people, it would affect the stock market. But in broad terms, he's not impacting corporate earnings, and therefore he's not relevant usually to the stock market. Okay. Now, the second piece of what's happening is that Trump is doing exactly what he said on tariffs. Wall Street believed that he was using them as a negotiating tool, a chip in the game, and he would not institute them fully and spark a series of trade wars. It appears as if that's what he may now be doing. Moreover, we always thought that Trump would come in and save the stock market. And this weekend, the Treasury Secretary and he have said it's going to be turbulent and the stock market may fall. So Wall Street's like, we weren't expecting this. So you are talking about the possibility of a recession if we have that trade war continue at a time when the Federal Reserve is worried about tariffs increasing inflation, because all the economists on Wall Street think it will increase inflation. Unlike what the White House believes. Therefore, the Fed can't cut rates dramatically. So we're in this really quite unpleasant situation where people who thought we were going to be plain sailing, pro-business, deregulation, big tax cuts are now like, oh my goodness, we actually may go into recession instead. But Trump is a man who likes to be unpredictable. That's his style. If he turned around and said, hey, trade wars are all off, tariffs are coming down, we've solved fentanyl or whatever it is, then you would expect, or you would hope, that the stock market would rise, would bounce quite significantly. You would hope that would happen, possibly up to where we were before, who knows. But it could very soon end if Trump did what Wall Street wants. That may be in the teeth of fentanyl or whatever, but that's basically our situation, Katie.
Have you ever seen anything like it before?
Oh my God. Yeah, did you go through the financial crisis? Did you go through the European crisis? I think it's very unusual that one person can change so much around the world so quickly. Let's not go into it because I don't want to do a political conversation. But the ramifications of what one man has done in, I don't know what it is, 5 weeks? It's just huge. Yeah. That's extremely unusual. That's a superpower that is acting in a way that superpowers traditionally have not done. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, your feedback on it all and your point of view on it and how you're looking at it, just because this is your field. It has been for so long. And speaking of, what really inspired you to get into financial advising and financial planning? Because it seems like something that really truly comes natural to you. I know you love it, and it's something you also get to do for work, but what's your inspiration behind it?
I'm like a pig in mud when it comes to investing in financial markets. I really am. I love this stuff. And I love, I've already made quite a lot of money through a very successful journalistic career. I did it for 27 years, 18 on TV. So, I have the luxury now of deciding what I want to do with my life and the clients that I want. And really, I'm very much about, I came to the Valley to find happiness because the TV career, we can talk about that. The TV career was tough. And I had a lot of money, but whatever. And so I wanted to build community. I had searched for community because I don't have a particularly strong family. And I thought it was LGBT community, but I came here and I realized again that you don't just slot into a community. You have to build a community around you. You do it quite literally, brick by brick by brick.
Yes,
and in addition to all this stuff about wanting to help people and teach people, I saw clients and doing good for clients and becoming long-term friends with clients part of that building of a community. So for me, I mean, the other thing is that although I've made some money, we all need an income for the many years that hopefully we're all going to have. And I need that income into probably my early 70s. And this is the type of business where nobody goes, you're too old, you're too fat, whatever they might say in TV. Or whatever, So,
That's right.
In a sense, I can control my destiny. Now, that building a book in your mid 50s it's not like building a book when you're 23. You live with your parents, so it's a more difficult thing to do. But as you know, we financial advisors is really like a licensing model. You bring them in, and God willing, if you treat them well and they're happy, they'll stay with you for a very long time. So it's slow going, but the product, as you'll ask anybody else in the Valley, after 15 years, is it can be good. It can be great.
Fantastic. And share with me some of the challenges that you might be facing or have faced throughout your career, because I do think that's a commonality we all have. Seeking something, putting yourself out there. Tell us about some of the challenges that you faced.
The biggest challenge, Katie, that I had is that I was asked to come to the United States for work. So I'd worked for CNBC in Europe for 10 years. We built CNBC Europe across 27 countries of the European Union. And, we'd succeeded in that to a large extent, and I'd become a big fish in a small pond. And Bloomberg recruited me to go relaunch their worldwide networks from London. And CNBC at the mothership in the United States went crazy. I mean, the CEO was like, I'm going to fly there now. I'll see you for breakfast tomorrow morning. Don't go to Bloomberg, blah, blah, blah. And they offered me, they said, come to the United States. This is the salary. And I'm like, really? That many zeros? I was like, oh my goodness. So I came, and actually one of them said to me, have you ever taken a risk? A really big risk? And I was like, no. They said, well, don't you think you should now? And I'm like, how could you turn down the job in America? So I had 2 little houses. I sold the houses. I said goodbye to my friends. I arrived in New York. I knew no one. I'd been to New York once for a couple of days for work, and I knew nobody. So I was starting again. And immediately I was doing the 10 o'clock show from the New York Stock Exchange. I was on those trading screens, and it's a Wall Street city. So you become a personality, and you walk a block, somebody's going to recognize you. I mean, it was a completely different ball game. And, it was a very serious network here. People would quote what we said on the wires, it was fact. So if you could move a market potentially by what you said, you could change the trajectory of a CEO's career through what it was really serious stuff. And the profile was huge. I give you an example. This is how high the profile was. In 2010, we had a new government in the UK. A conservative government came in, and I was coming home from work one day in the town car, and there was a TV camera filming me like this as I got out of the car and I went towards my apartment door, and I'm thinking, this probably isn't good. So I went up and I said, are you filming me? He said, yes. He said, I'm Simon, whatever his name was, from the Daily Mirror in the UK. He said, I've flown to New York just to see you. And I was like, I hope it hasn't been wasted. He said, I want to talk to you about your relationship with X. As I say, X was the new Secretary of State for the incoming government. And I was like, I've never met him. They were like, but I want to talk to you about your relationship with him. And I was like, oh my goodness, you mean that kind of relationship? And I was like, I've never met him. And I ran inside, and it was like, had I put it, and then the rest of the press corps came. One by one, they came with their cameras. They thought they had the exclusive.
Gosh.
This is the second day of the UK government. Had I put a foot wrong, I would have been on all the front pages, and David Cameron would have had his first big political crisis. It was, it's just mind blowing. And I would get in, I'd shut the door like this, and that was just life in New York. It was like that every day.
Oh my goodness.
I did, but it took everything that I had to hang on to that. And TV networks, I'm actually under an NDA, so I can't. TV networks in general on cable, they're rough. And I tell you why they're rough, because the business model is really obvious. You have one guy here who's earning $500,000, $700,000, and you have one guy here who's earning $7 million. They kind of do the same thing. How do you think this guy protects his position at 7 million? And how do you think this guy goes after a salary of 7 million. So the
Right.
tension within a network. And I would also say, I think it's fair to say, despite the NDA, that there was a proportion. I always had the support of senior management, but there was a proportion they were based in Jersey. There was a proportion of people who, for some reason, didn't want me to be part of the network. You know, this was 2009. We only had gay marriage in 2015, and they made it really difficult. That small proportion, as I say, CNBC was great, senior management was great, but it was a struggle. And every day, you know, I was the first person on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange every day doing the research. I tried to get ahead. The weekends were about work, and at the end of it, you're like, is this really worth it? I have all this money and I don't go out. And I'd be really honest with you. My mother came over. I kept flying her over. I had a 2,200 square foot apartment with a keyed elevator with big plate glass windows overlooking the High Line. And my mother, she wasn't impressed with any of that. And I was like, why am I bothering? So they also weren't going to give me my own show. So I thought maybe it's time to go and find happiness, which is why I'm here in the desert, I have to say.
Well, and an amazing story and history and everything that you've been through. And I love that you've come here to find happiness. And I look behind you at this view and the weather and the pool and the smile on your face. And I think, wow, you've arrived here. And we're so blessed to have you here.
Yeah, it's taken a while. It's taken a while, but it's you know, it's as time, you know, when I came to the United States, when I came to I think there's a lesson in this. When I came to the United States, I thought that, and I was very lucky, it was the greatest privilege of my life. I thought that it was all about the job. I thought that everything, I had no friends, everything was about the job, everything was about the TV, getting it right, moving on, getting your own show, living in this big apartment, you know, just being this huge opportunity. And as I say, as time went on, I was like, is this really making you happy? And it wasn't. And so I came out to the West Coast searching, and now that I don't know how much detail to go into, but now I'm here in the desert. I'm building community. The business is going well, and I for various reasons have found God. I'm not that sort of person at all. I am not that sort of person. I'm not happy clappy. I never was. But to find that in a kind of cutting edge way and go, oh my God, this really works. You look back over your life, and the realization for me, dare I suggest it, is that maybe I wasn't brought to the United States for the job. Is that possible? Is that the miracle? So I think very often in our lives, we see an event, whether it's positive or negative, and you can, a big event, and you can maybe predict what happens 6 months or a year down the line, maybe 2 years. But what you usually don't consider is what happens. What is that butterfly effect 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line? And
Beautiful.
now as I say, it's the greatest privilege of my life to be here.
I love that. And so is that the seed of hope you want to leave us with today? Because that already was so brilliant, but
was it? You know,
it was.
You're very kind to me, Katie. Really, you're very kind to me. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Really beautifully said. But is there a little seed of hope you want to leave listeners and viewers there with?
You know, I know what you're talking about because I sent some stuff out to my client. I've said this, and what I'm about to say, and I get a lot of flack. And it's not a political statement at all, what I'm about to say. I am in a position now where I am anxious to find gratitude in my life, to be happy. And I look around me and I see a lot of people that are unhappy. And maybe that's right. These are chaotic times, and for people, as we know, they're very, very hard for a lot of people. My position, and what I just tried to point something out to people in the middle of all this. Coming to America, I was 7 years a citizen about 2 weeks ago, which is what you're referring to. And when I came in 2009, as I think I've described to you, this really was the shining city on a hill. It really was. And I still believe it is now today. And I know people are going to go absolutely crazy, half the population. I totally get that. But let me explain what I mean. You know, what is America? If you can travel for thousands of miles and see the most amazing scenery in the world, this is a really big, beautiful country, and nothing changes that. And you can go most places, I think everywhere in this country. And in my experience, you meet really genuine people. And I think sometimes, I know that things are tough. I don't need you to email me, and I don't need abuse about it. This is not about my politics. My politics are probably not what you think they are at this moment. But I just want people, particularly people that were born in California, to just realize how incredibly damn lucky we are. Life in the valley. Are you kidding me? Life in the valley. There's no traffic jams. You wake up. It's mind blowing. If you hear what pretty good schools, pretty good law and order. I mean, and I just want to say, and I don't mean to be rude. If you understand what you've got, just please travel a little, not to tourist destinations, but travel to real life, even in my own country, and understand how people really live their daily lives. And I don't mean to be rude. I'm not knocking either side of the
not at all.
Please understand what we have, and just a moment value that. That's the point that I made. But I took a lot of flack for that. A lot of flack.
Well, I think there's always room for gratitude. There's always room for gratitude. Yeah. And for looking around at where you are and what you have and being grateful for it. I think there's always that's always a great reminder for everyone.
Look at it, Katie.
So, I know. I'm coming over right now. I'm jumping in that pool in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There's a pool party later. Yeah. You might not want to come, but there is one.
Well, Simon, thank you for joining us on Seeds of Hope today. And
it's
for
been a pleasure,
who's
Katie.
Out there listening, watching, Simon's information is down below, both his email and his phone number as well. And I'll be sure to put his website down in the comments as well. But this is the whole purpose behind the Seeds of Hope video series, is to make sure that you get to know Simon and he gets to know all of you as well. He's always out in the community supporting chambers of commerce, local businesses, local nonprofit organizations, area professionals. And at the end of the day, I think we're all stronger together, which is why it's such a pleasure to bring folks like you on, Simon, to introduce you to the
I'll see you at the golf tomorrow, Katie.
Oh, the Gallery Classic kickoff. I love it. That'll be fun. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take good care.
All right. Bye-bye.
And thanks again for joining us on Seeds of Hope. It's always so much fun just to say hello to you and bring you some of the best people that I know to share who they are and what they do. And if you'd like to be on Seeds of Hope, you're welcome to let us know if there's a way that I can support you, your business, your nonprofit. Please don't hesitate to let me know. It is always a pleasure to support you and our community. We'll see you soon, everyone. Take good care.